Axios yesterday published two scoops about 4 hours apart. Scoop number one. Netanyahu tells Biden he's worried about possible international criminal court arrest warrants. So they had a talk earlier this week. Israeli Prime Minister, I did this because the way Axios formats their articles, it's weird with the bullet points and the bold and this. It's a pain in the ass to make a proper slideshow, so I just copy and pasted the graphic. That's why it looks a little different. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked President Biden Sunday to help prevent the International Criminal Court from issuing arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials in connection with the war in Gaza, two Israeli officials told Axios. Why it matters. Israeli officials have grown increasingly concerned over the last 2 weeks that the ICC is preparing to issue arrest warrants for Netanyahu. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. Behind the scenes, the official said Netanyahu expressed his concern to Biden in a phone call on Sunday where the two leaders also discussed hostage negotiations, Israel's defense against Iran's missile attack, and the need to increase humanitarian aid to Gaza, according to a White House readout. The ICC, which is based in The Hague, Netherlands, has been investigating possible war crimes by both Israeli forces and Palestinian militants dating back to the 2014 Israel-Hamas war. U.S. officials say they do not have a clear indication when the ICC is going to issue arrest warrants, but said the prosecutor's office is under pressure from NGOs in several ICC member states to do so. What they're saying: under my leadership, Israel will never accept any attempt by the ICC to undermine its inherent right of self-defense, Netanyahu said in a statement on X Friday. While the ICC will not affect Israel's actions, it would set a dangerous precedent that threatens soldiers and officials of all democracies fighting savage terrorism and wanton aggression, he said. What he means by that is, Max Blumenthal mentioned this on the Jimmy Dore show yesterday when we were on, is basically what an arrest warrant would do is the same thing it does to Vladimir Putin when a warrant came out for his arrest. It restricts his movements. He can't go to certain places. Right. A spokesperson for the White House National Security Council declined to comment on the contents of Netanyahu's call with Biden, but told Axios, as we publicly said many times, the ICC has no jurisdiction in this situation, and we do not support its investigation. So they had a phone call. Netanyahu asked for the United States to shield Israel from any ICC arrest warrant, and Israel asks, we deliver. Scoop number two, 4 hours after scoop number one, Congress threatens ICC over Israeli arrest warrants. And so tell me again how these students are in the wrong. Tell me again how these students are the violent ones. We're the ones, as you'll see in this second scoop. We are willing to totally throw out any pretense that we give a damn about international law in order to shield Israel. That's what this scoop gets into. The ICC is being warned by members of Congress in both parties that arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials will be met with U.S. retaliation, not just condemnation, but retaliation, and legislation to that effect is already in the works, Axios has learned. See how quickly they move? See how well government functions when it's to do something horrible?
Yeah.
Right? When it comes to passing an infrastructure bill, it's months and negotiations and stalemates and taking things out that would help too many people because it costs too much money. When it comes time to shielding a terror state from the International Criminal Court, they get right on it. No time to waste.
Well, yeah, no. Anytime it's something for the American people, they trot out, oh, democracy is messy. This is how the sausage is made. The system was designed by the founders to be inefficient. They'll give you all that fucking bullshit, and then in the end, you don't even get a crust of bread.
Right. But when Israel makes a phone call and says, hey, we're about to be tried at The Hague, we need help, boom, instant mobilization.
When Ukraine needs money. Yeah. Ukraine needs money. Look, you had a couple of these people held it up for a little while, but in the end, they get their way, man.
Driving the news, House Speaker Mike Johnson issued a statement on Monday calling the reported warrants disgraceful and lawless, meaning the ICC warrants. If unchallenged by the Biden administration, the ICC could create and assume unprecedented power to issue arrest warrants against American political leaders, American diplomats, and American military personnel, Johnson said. Johnson called for the Biden administration to immediately and unequivocally demand that the ICC stand down and use every available tool to prevent such an abomination. The speaker joined several Republican lawmakers who have harshly criticized the ICC in recent days. What we're hearing. One Republican House member told Axios there is already legislation being drafted to respond to any warrants. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Michael McCall, Republican from Texas, told Axios he expects a House version of Senator Tom Cotton's bill to sanction ICC officials involved in investigating the U.S. and its allies, but added, "We hope it doesn't come to that," hence the word threat. Stand down, or we're going to start issuing sanctions against you. Representative Brad Sherman, Democrat from California, said the U.S. should think of whether we stay a signatory to the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the ICC. Once again, we're just willing to burn down any pretense that we value international law. We have to think about talking to some of the countries that have ratified the treaty as to whether they want to support the organization, he added. Zoom in. It's not just Republicans lashing out and warning the ICC that warrants could be met with a legislative response. Staunchly pro-Israel Representative Richie Torres, soon to be former congressman, we hope, go to votevega.nyc, and Senator John Fetterman have both criticized... Yeah, that's his quote, his on-the-record statement. John Fetterman have both criticized the reported warrants, with Torres calling for strong consequences from both Congress and the president. I know Congress will ensure consequences for such an absurd decision, Sherman said in a post on X. An ICC spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comments. You know who threatens judges and courts? The mafia. You know who else got in a lot of trouble with a lot of these Democrats for trashing judges with inflammatory rhetoric that some perceived as threats? Donald Trump. Remember that guy, Donald Trump, who's on trial for trying to work the courts and work the judges and trashing the judges at a trial? They say this is, he's trashing a judge. He's trashing the legal system. Well, here you are. Even dissident. Richie Torres, John Fetterman, those are the Democrats. Obviously, plenty of Republicans with their hands dirty as well here. Look at how we are willing to just debase ourselves. Like, this is just totally mask off. You're threatening to sanction the ICC investigators for looking at our ally and perhaps by extension us, even though we do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC because we incidentally do a lot of war crimes, right? That's why we don't. But they threaten an arrest warrant against Netanyahu, and instantly you have legislation being drafted to enforce retribution, to bring down retribution on them. Yeah. This is a country on the right side of, like, does anybody really think we're on the right side of this at this point? Like, how do you even do a show like Morning Joe now? How do you go on CNN? How do you maintain any premise that we are in the right here? I mean, that's blatant, is it not?
On the bright side, more and more people are waking up to the fact that this is all infotainment and not news, as their ratings and demographics of their viewers reflect. And as that poll that just came out shows, if you do watch cable news, you don't think Israel is committing war crimes. I mean, that really shows you how distorted a perception of what's happening they're going to give you. But if you want to see the true face of power, you have to challenge it. It's all well and good to say we support international law, we support these institutions of justice, not like Vladimir Putin, not like China, not like Xi. We support the rules-based international order. It's all well and good to say that until the rules-based international order challenges your interests, challenges what you're really doing. And that's what these students are discovering. That's what some people who are paying attention hopefully are waking up to from things like this. This is what the rest of the world has long known. It's been a very long time that polling of people around the world, when you ask them which nation is the greatest threat to world peace, will say the United States. Yep. The only ones left to find this out are Americans. And some of them are hopeless. Some of them are just going to swallow the Kool-Aid. And if they didn't have Donald Trump to redirect to, they'd have to invent him, right? You just keep these people, oh, God, but he's better than Trump. I don't agree with Biden about everything. Trump, right? Bernie's helping out to get the left-adjacent people to think they have representation by coming out against Netanyahu, as if that and a nickel will get you on the fucking subway. So yeah, no, this is I keep comparing it, and Max pointed out some interesting differences yesterday, but it is very much like the Vietnam era in a lot of ways. As they say, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. There's definitely a rhyme here where you have the public being woken up to the true face of state power and experiencing a lot of cognitive dissonance, because what the reality is, once you poke it a little bit, is so far removed from what they were told it was.
Please clap.